TCI is brought to you by Spendthrift's record-breaking Grade 1 winning millionaire, It's My Lucky Day, whose first foals are arriving now.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Triple Crown. Alongside Joel Cunningham, I'm John Siegel. Well, Joel, today we're going to talk about the $1 million Louisiana Derby. You know, it's the first of the 100-point races. But before we do that, let's get a Rebel recap in here and see how those horses performed. You know, there was a colt shipping in from California you were pretty high on, and that was Cupid. You know, you thought that he didn't have a lot of experience, but you thought he had a big shot in there. Tell me, what did you think of his performance?
Well, I thought he ran very well. You know, I thought he was going to run well in the San Felipe the time before because he's just one of these late developing talents in the right hands of Bob Baffert, and he sort of had that Bodemeister profile, in my opinion. Probably not quite as brilliant, but a lot of talent there, and he showed it when they finally got him around 2 turns. He really developed in his maiden win. You see here, to be able to go on the road, handle the Rebel experience, a full field in here. You know, Whitmore's a nice seasoned horse making a run at him. He puts him away and sort of re-breaks there and shows his quality. Gallops out well, too, so Cupid looks like the goods, John. Probably going to come back in the Arkansas Derby where he's going to be the favorite. Distance doesn't look like an issue with him in terms of going from 1 16 to 1 1/8. So a big talent for Bob Baffert. He did get a good trip, though. He didn't break so well. You know, it looked early on like he could get shuffled back, but Martin did a great job hustling him up. Nobody really wanted to lead in this race, and so it wasn't as contested of a pace as there was in Southwest Stakes that we saw, and he was able to slide up the inside. By the time they hit the first turn, Martin had clear sailing with this colt on lead, got him to settle down the back stretch, and then he poured it on the stretch. So you had to be very impressed with Cupid and his potential going forward.
You know, I thought it was interesting. You said he kind of poured it on. I saw a little immaturity in there still. It felt like he was kind of goofing off a little bit.
Yes.
Let Whitmore kind of come to him. I thought Martin did a good job of shaking him back up and saying, hey, you need to pay attention and finish this race.
Well, you know, Oaklawn's kind of a narrow track, and they get big crowds on these featured days like the Rebel Stakes, and they had another big crowd this weekend. And a lot of times when the horses come off the turn there, especially these immature type 3-year-olds, when they come off the turn, turning for home, they see that crowd roar, and you see them respond to it. And Cupid did that. You know, he reacted to the crowd. Even Whitmore did that. If you watch Whitmore, he makes a run up on the turn, floats very wide on the turn, loses his focus, his ears go up. Then the rider hits him strong with a strong right hand and gets him into focus. Whitmore comes to him at that point. But like you said, Cupid had enough in the tank there to pull away the final 16th of a race. He has a big stride on him, kind of a wide moving horse, but certainly one that looks like he has plenty of stamina and will be your favorite now in the Arkansas Derby.
I'll tell you, there's another horse. There's another gray coming up on the outside, and that's the Windstar horse. You're always talking about a developing 3-year-old at this time of year. You know, he could be big in the Arkansas Derby with that late run. Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see what he does in there.
He kind of looks like Nero to me a little bit. You know, if we're making more comparisons of, you know, we mentioned Bodemeister and Cupid. Nero was a horse for Steve Asmussen. Took him a while to figure it out and break his mate, but once he put it together, he was that closing type colt that came on in a hurry, went from a maiden win to where, you know, he looked like he almost won the Arkansas Derby, and then obviously we know what kind of run he made in the Kentucky Derby.
Sure.
So, you know, when I look at creators, a horse by Tappet, another one that Windstar's always been very high on. He's a one-run closer, so he's a pace-reliant type horse. But if he keeps developing towards that pedigree, and which they're hopeful that he will, you would think definitely going 1 1/8 would be better off for him, especially if he can get more of a pace to go up front with Cupid in the Arkansas Derby. And if they get the points to get in the Kentucky Derby, he could be an interesting outsider.
All right, so you like Cupid going into the race. He performs well, wins the race. But tell me, did he do enough to get on the TCI top 10?
You would maybe think he did, but I'm going to leave him off. I struggle with this a little bit in terms of that 10 spot. You know, I guess where are we starting here? Okay, we're starting with 10 through 6. I put Whitmore in there. Here's a colt that has a lot of 2-year-old foundation, likes Churchill Downs, and just keeps firing. And the fact that Cupid was able to get a little loose on the lead there, I'm not saying Whitmore got a bad trip. I think he got a good trip. Whitmore kind of reminds me of Destin a little bit in terms of his maturation. You know, he's not coming from the clouds. You know, I liked actually the position that his rider was able to put him in. He was able to track a lot closer, make a move to get in contention, and still finish off of it. Showed some greenness at the top of the stretch. So, again, when I'm looking for a classic horse with some upside as the distances get longer, that has that 2-year-old foundation, likes Churchill Downs, I gave him a slight edge over Cupid and outwork from the Todd Pletcher barn in terms of the 3 colts I was looking at to fit in that top 10. Because obviously, as you'll see, everybody kind of moves up a spot until their next race till we see what we get out of them. But Songbird, they do not Triple Crown nominate. You figure that was the news reported all along, was going to give him that opportunity. Now that they're not nominated Triple Crown by the late nomination period, she falls off, everybody sort of moves up a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be disappointing to not see her in the Derby, but look, they got a tremendous filly, and we'll see what happens. Yep. It's definitely an impressive top 10 that you have there. And, it's interesting, you see there in your number 5 spot, Motom. He's a horse that'll be entered into the Louisiana Derby. It's a perfect transition to move into the race. There's some good runners in here, which it's always going to be. When you start getting 100 points or $1 million, you're going to start seeing the good 3-year-olds. This one's it got some good horses in here, but tell me, who do you like?
Well, a lot of people may think that maybe I have Motom overrated right now, and the fact that he's in the top 5. But you know how we work things here. I mean, we make evaluations, try to get it as close as possible for our initial top 10. It did get blown up a little bit last week with Destin really punching through and showing that improvement. Mm-hmm. Certainly Dancing Candy jumping onto the list, but normally I'm just moving horses up until they show me in their next start. So Motom, when I look at this colt, Tom Amos has raved at how he's trained at fairgrounds. I really thought he had a legitimate excuse last time out in terms of being stopped as soon as they hit the stretch in the Risen Star Stakes, and I think that did probably cost him. Now, again, I don't know how great that field was. I think Gunrunner is solid. I think Gunrunner's a pretty nice horse, but I'm not so sure that the New Orleans path is the best path this year, but that track plays so closely to Churchill Downs. I know Motom loves Churchill Downs based on his form there, and again, he's a May foal. He's an immature made horse, and when you listen to Tom Amos, he just physically keeps getting better and better in his training and filling out into that. So when I think of Motom, not only does he have the style and the class, I think he has the upside. And going another 1/8 of a mile here, or 16th of a mile here, going a mile and 1/8 in the Louisiana Derby, I'm looking for Motom to turn in a big run here and prove that he could be top 5 on my list. If he doesn't, I think he will be the favorite. Then he's going to fall back a little bit. But to me, again, when projecting who's going to be a 1.25 mile quality in early May at Churchill Downs, I still think Motom has that upside. Gunrunner certainly drawing the rail in here is not great, but he has some tactical speed. He showed that last time out in the Risen Star. I think him, Greenpointcrusader has some tactical speed, which he showed in the Holy Bull. Those two horses are interesting in the early position they get, following your front runner, which is going to be Candy, my boy. The 5 horses set the pace in the Risen Star, but there's not a ton of speed in here, John.
Sure.
Maybe even Battery from Todd Pletcher's barn shows a little stalking speed in here. To me, the most accomplished horses in here are maybe horses that want to close. I think Gunrunner really wants to be a closer, but he has tactical speed. Motom, again, will he get that pace to run out? Would he get a clean trip? I mean, will he be kind of the dollar bill horse to where he finds trouble and he's so pace reliant that you can't rely on the horse? I want to find out those sort of things this weekend in the Louisiana Derby. And like you said, it's our first 100-point prep race, John. So I'm going to pick Motom in here. I am concerned about the pace scenario, but I do like his quality and upside at this track going another 16th of a mile. So I expect Motom to run well. And it'd be interesting to see, can Greenpointcrusader, is he going to be like his siblings, be more like a miler? Or can he prove to be a distance type horse? We're going to find that out this weekend. Gunrunner, he ran well at the layoff like Asmussen's horse do. And I think maybe he got a little short the last 16th of a mile. Can he show his quality? He should love a mile and 1/8. Can he get a good enough trip on the inside and show in a fair race that he can beat Motom? So a lot of things we want to find. Forevamo, we hadn't even talked about him. Drew a bad post far outside post 11. But here's a colt that was always supposed to be good. David and Gordo bought him out of the O'Farrell boys consignment, Calistuck consignment, out of one of their good mares. He's by Uncle Mo. He's a beautiful specimen. Just keeps getting better and better and has always shown some talent. And I thought his strides looked really good in the Risen Star. Can he take that step forward? So I think this is going to be a proving grounds type of race. It's not a deep race, but I think there's some talent in here, and I really want to see who those colts, the ones that I mentioned, how they run.
All right, well, thank you, Joel. Yep. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you come back next week. We'll see if any of these horses can prove they're good enough to earn the points and get in the TCI top 10.